The day I refused to join the HOA, I had no idea it would spiral into a nightmare of fire, confrontation, and chaos that would push me to my limits and force me to fight for every inch of my land and property. I had always loved my farm. The smell of fresh soil in the morning, the rumble of my old tractor beneath my hands, and the freedom that came from knowing no one could dictate what I did on my own property. The HOA had been pressuring me relentlessly for months, sending endless letters, complaining about every little thing from fence colors to the weeds along the driveway, and Karen, the neighborhood's self-appointed enforcer, had taken it personally that I refused to comply. At first, it was just words at the property line, where she would yell about community standards and rules, while I calmly refused to bow down to her authority. But that night, as I was finishing repairs on my tractor under the dim glow of the garage light, I smelled smoke. My stomach dropped. I ran outside and froze at the sight. My tractor was engulfed in flames, bright orange and black smoke curling into the sky. And there stood Karen with a gasoline can in her hands, a triumphant smirk twisting her face. My adrenaline spiked as I grabbed buckets of water and dirt, throwing everything I could find onto the fire. She lunged at me, shoving my shoulder, trying to intimidate me physically, but I sidestepped, countering her push and maintaining my balance. Sparks flew in all directions, the heat from the fire scorching my arms. Neighbors gathered, some screaming, some filming, as we clashed in the middle of my driveway. Karen swung wildly, trying to stop me from grabbing the fire extinguisher, but I ducked and used her momentum to shove her safely away from the tractor. Every second felt like a lifetime, the roar of the fire mingling with her shrieks and the shouts of onlookers. My heart pounding, my muscles straining, knowing that if I failed, not just my tractor, but my entire barn and surrounding fields could ignite. Slowly, I managed to contain the fire enough to prevent it from spreading. My hands blackened with ash, my shirt scorched, my breathing ragged, but my resolve unbroken. Karen stumbled back, her face red with rage, her smirk gone, replaced by a look of disbelief and hatred. I recorded everything on my phone, filming the confrontation and her actions. Knowing this wasn't simple vandalism, it was a full-blown attack. A power struggle disguised as community enforcement. That night, as the fire department arrived and doused the remaining flames, I stood among the charred remains of the tractor, anger and adrenaline mixing in my veins. I knew the next step would not just be revenge. It would require strategy, patience, and authority. Karen had underestimated me, thinking a little fire and intimidation could bend me to her will. The tractor was ruined, but my determination burned hotter than the flames, and she had no idea the consequences that awaited her the following day. I planned carefully, documenting every detail, preparing for a confrontation that would ensure justice, protect my property, and teach Karen the hard truth about arrogance, entitlement, and what happens when someone tries to push the wrong person too far. Karen believed she had won, that fire, threats, and aggression could break me. But she had no idea she was about to face the sheriff of this county, and her own arrogance would guarantee her downfall. The morning after the fire, Karen strutted around the neighborhood, her face painted with smug satisfaction, boasting to anyone who would listen that she had taught the stubborn farmer a lesson. I stayed back, observing carefully, silently gathering evidence, photos of the scorched tractor, videos of her threats, statements from neighbors who had witnessed the chaos, every detail cataloged meticulously. I waited for the perfect moment. Later, she returned to my property, parking her SUV across the driveway, yelling and waving her hands, attempting to assert control and intimidate me. Calmly, I walked up and revealed my badge, and her eyes widened in disbelief. The confident smirk vanished instantly. She lunged at me, fists swinging, desperate to regain power, but I sidestepped, using her momentum to guide her harmlessly to the ground. Neighbors gasped, some filming as she struggled to rise, red-faced with fury and embarrassment. I restrained her verbally, stating clearly that she was under investigation for arson, harassment, and trespassing, and that any further aggressive act would result in immediate arrest. She attempted another shove, but my calm authority kept her in place, her rage turning to panic as backup arrived moments later. The neighborhood watched in stunned silence as Karen was escorted off the property, her shouting fading as the weight of reality hit her. Meanwhile, I filed formal charges, presenting the evidence I had gathered meticulously, leaving no room for doubt. My tractor was repaired, my land secured, and peace returned. But the lesson was clear. Entitlement, aggression, and intimidation cannot overpower law, strategy, and courage. Karen's fire may have started a chain reaction, but her own reckless actions sealed her defeat. My neighbors, who had witnessed the events unfold, now saw firsthand that standing your ground with patience, strategy, and authority wins over brute arrogance. By the end, Karen had lost credibility, power, and respect, while my farm, my tractor, and my freedom stood as symbols of resilience, justice, and the consequences of overstepping boundaries. The fight, the tension, and the confrontation became a story the county would not forget, a cautionary tale of entitlement, revenge, and the power of law wielded wisely. Karen's downfall was complete, and my authority as both a farmer and the sheriff ensured that justice prevailed, the flames of her malice extinguished by the calm, calculated, and decisive force of truth and law.